Why does your dog follow you into every single room, even when nothing is happening? Dogs are the only non-human animal on Earth selectively shaped over at least 15,000 years to track, read, and stay close to a specific human being. That is not coincidence. It is an inheritance. Behaviorists use the term Velcro dog to describe a dog that shadows its owner through every room. The behavior looks like loyalty. It's actually three completely different things happening at once, and most people never realize the distinction. The first driver is ancient. Wolves maintain pack cohesion through constant proximity monitoring. A wolf that loses track of its group is a wolf that doesn't survive the winter. Dogs inherited that monitoring impulse directly. Domestication did something precise. It didn't erase the pack cohesion instinct, it redirected it. The human household became the pack. You, moving through your kitchen, became the signal your dog's nervous system was already built to follow. Here's where it gets more specific. In 2001, researchers at the Wolf Science Center in Ernstbrunn, Austria, tested both wolves and dogs on the same social attention task. Dogs followed human gaze. Wolves didn't. The divergence is genetic, not trained. Gaze following means your dog isn't just near you, it's reading you. Every time you stand up, glance toward the door, or shift your weight, your dog's brain registers that as social information. Movement becomes a signal worth tracking. The second driver is learned. Every time your dog followed you and something good happened, food appeared, a door opened, play began, that behavior was reinforced. Operant conditioning layered on top of instinct, making the following stronger with each repetition. You probably reinforced it without knowing. Glancing down at your dog when it follows you is a reward. Speaking to it is a reward. Even mild eye contact counts. The behavior doesn't need food to strengthen. Attention alone is enough. But here's the harder part. For some dogs, following isn't instinct and isn't habit. It's distress. Separation anxiety is a genuine clinical condition, affecting an estimated 14 to 20% of pet dogs, according to a 2020 review in Frontiers in Veterinary Science. Separation anxiety isn't about following. It's about what happens the moment following becomes impossible. A dog with true separation anxiety doesn't simply wait. It panics. Heart rate spikes, cortisol floods the bloodstream, destructive behavior begins within minutes. Researchers measure this with salivary cortisol samples and heart rate monitors attached during owner departures. A 2014 study by veterinary behaviorist Kirsty Sexel found that anxious dogs showed measurable cortisol elevation within 4 minutes of the owner leaving the room. So, when you ask why your dog follows you room to room, you're actually asking 3 separate questions at once. Is this instinct? Is this habit? Or is this suffering? The answer changes everything about how you should respond. Here's something most people never realize. The proximity drive runs in both directions. A 2015 study led by Miho Nagasawa at Azabu University in Japan found that mutual gaze between dogs and their owners triggers an oxytocin release in both species simultaneously. Oxytocin is the same neurochemical that bonds human mothers to newborns. The Nagasawa study showed that dogs and humans co-opted an existing mammalian bonding loop, one never designed for cross-species use, and made it work anyway. But not all dogs follow equally. Breed history makes this concrete. Dogs bred for independent work, livestock guardian breeds like the Kangal, show far less Velcro behavior than dogs bred for close human cooperation, like Border Collies or Vizslas. The Vizsla was bred for centuries in Hungary as a close working hunting companion, always within arm's reach of its handler. Proximity was the job. The breed's nervous system was shaped to feel correct only when a human is nearby. Distance registers as wrong. There's another layer entirely: scent. A dog's olfactory system contains roughly 300 million scent receptors, compared to 6 million in humans. Your dog knows you've moved before it sees you move. It reads the air current your body displaces. This means the following behavior often begins before conscious decision-making. The dog's nose registers your scent plume shifting toward the kitchen, toward the door, and the body is already moving. The brain catches up afterward. Here's a question worth sitting with. Is constant following actually good for the dog? For most dogs with normal attachment, yes. Proximity to the primary caregiver is a reliable source of felt safety. But the line between secure attachment and dependence is real. Veterinary behaviorist Karen Overall distinguishes secure attachment, where the dog follows but settles calmly when the owner is still, from hyper-attachment, where the dog can't settle at all and monitors every micro-movement with visible tension. Picture this. You get up to refill your water glass. Your dog lifts its head, watches you cross the room, then settles when you return. That's secure attachment. Now picture a dog that follows, paces at the door, and can't lie down until you sit again. That's something else. Hyperattachment often develops after a disruption. A move, a new baby, a period of owner illness, or a major schedule shift. A 2021 study by veterinary behaviorist Stephanie Reamer, published in Animals, found that dogs whose routines were disrupted during the COVID-19 pandemic showed measurably elevated separation-related behaviors compared to pre-disruption baselines. Dogs calibrate around routine. When routine breaks, some dogs recalibrate by increasing proximity monitoring to compensate. Remember the oxytocin loop from the Nagasawa study? It cuts both ways. The same neurochemical that creates genuine bonding can also reinforce hypervigilance if the dog learns that intense proximity monitoring is what keeps the good feeling coming. The loop can tighten. Here is the unifying insight. All three drivers, instinct, reinforcement, and anxiety, run on the same underlying system, the dog's threat assessment circuit. Proximity to the caregiver reduces threat signals. Distance raises them. The dog is always solving for safety. Once you understand that, the behavior stops looking like neediness and starts looking like problem solving. Your dog isn't being clingy. It's running a continuous background calculation. How safe is this environment? And where is the variable that most reliably predicts safety? For dogs with secure attachment, the healthiest response is calm acknowledgement. Not effusive greeting every time they follow, which spikes arousal, and not deliberate ignoring, which can increase anxiety. A quiet glance and a settled posture communicates, "Yes, I see you. All is well." If the behavior looks like anxiety, pacing, panting, inability to settle, distress at micro-departures, the evidence-based intervention is a structured independence protocol. Veterinary behaviorists like Christopher Pockel recommend short, calm, predictable separations that gradually rebuild the dog's tolerance for distance. Zoom out, and the Velcro dog becomes something larger. Evolutionary biologist Brian Hare at Duke University has argued, based on his domestication research, that dogs didn't simply adapt to humans. They may have actively shaped the social environments humans created, influencing which human behaviors got reinforced across generations of shared living. The partnership ran in both directions. The Nagasawa oxytocin study had a specific and striking finding. The same hormonal bonding loop that evolved to bind human mothers to infants was fully activated by dog-human gaze. A cross-species interaction the circuit never evolved to handle. That single 2015 result forced a revision of the assumption that mammalian bonding systems were species-locked. Here's something you can do in the next 5 minutes. Watch your dog the next time you stand up and move to another room. Does it lift its head and settle when you return? Secure attachment. Does it follow, pace, and refuse to lie down until you stop moving? That pattern, repeated across multiple departures in a single day, is the clinical threshold Karen Overall uses to flag hyperattachment for further evaluation. The next time your dog shadows you down the hall, remember what Kirsty Sexel's cortisol data showed. The stress response in an anxious dog begins within 4 minutes. You have a 4-minute window to either reinforce calm independence or spike arousal. A quiet glance and a settled posture costs you nothing. For a dog solving for safety, it's everything.